Two neighbors, same building, same floor, same year. One earns $7,000 more per year. The other has $280,000 more in net worth. That gap didn't come from income. It came from 9 purchases that feel completely normal in your 30s and quietly cost you everything. Walk into apartment 4A and you're stepping over Amazon boxes that haven't been opened yet. There's a leased $58,000 BMW in the garage, $891 a month. The kitchen just got a $74,000 renovation featuring a $4,800 Italian range used exclusively to boil pasta, and once to heat up soup from a can during a power outage. Combined income $148,000, retirement savings $61,000. Marcus and Jess open the mail every evening the same way, standing up, flipping through it fast, then setting it face down on the counter without reading it. Knock on 4C, same building. Daniel and Sophia, also 36, $7,000 less per year. Original kitchen cabinets from 2009, scratched Formica countertop, paid off Subaru in the lot. On the couch after dinner, Daniel is toggling between 2 tabs, an investment portfolio at $340,000 and a retirement calculator showing an exit date of 51. The mail is already dealt with, nothing stressful in it. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time running the math nobody in your life wants to show you. If you've ever looked at your salary and thought, I make good money, so why does it never feel like enough? What I'm about to walk you through is the exact list of decisions separating those 2 apartments. One number reframes everything that follows. Because of compound interest, every dollar you spend at 35 costs you roughly $7 to $8 in retirement wealth at 65. That $74,000 kitchen renovation isn't $74,000. It's closer to $500,000 that doesn't exist when you're 65. That $891 car lease isn't $891 a month. It's the difference between retiring at 51 and retiring at 67. The savings rate math makes this concrete. Save 10% of your income, which feels responsible, and you're mathematically 51 years from retirement. Save 30% and that drops to 28 years. Save 50% and it's 17 years. Under the 4% rule, your retirement number is 25 times your annual expenses. Every dollar you stop spending is worth $25 in the target you're chasing. Your 30s are the critical window because income is growing faster now than at any other point in your life. And the people who retire early didn't earn more. They refused to let spending keep pace with income. They captured the gap. Here are the 9 things most likely closing it. Number 1, too much house. This isn't an argument against buying a home, it's an argument against the upgrade. The specific logic that shows up in your 30s that goes, we're having kids, we need more space, we can technically qualify for this, so let's do it. The difference between a $350,000 house and a $500,000 house at current rates is $775 a month. That's $9,300 a year. Invest that $775 instead at 7% for 25 years and it becomes $608,000. Over 30 years, $945,000. Or if you match the S&P 500's historical 10% return, it becomes $1.7 million from one housing decision. The upgrade, not the purchase. Here's what makes it worse. The house you live in returns about 3.5 to 5.5% annually over the long run. The S&P 500 returns about 10%. You are locking hundreds of thousands of extra dollars into the lower returning asset and calling it an investment. It's not. It's shelter. Nearly 18 million American households are currently house poor, spending more than 30% of their income on housing. They didn't buy mansions. They bought perfectly normal houses that cost slightly more than they could comfortably carry, locked in a payment that consumed their entire financial margin, and now they work every month to maintain walls they're too stressed to enjoy. The house won. They service it. That's not home ownership. That's a mortgage with decorating privileges. Number 2, the luxury car upgrade. The average new car payment has hit $748 to $772 a month. 20% of buyers are now paying over $1,000. 1 in 5 new car loans stretches to 84 months. 7 years of payments on something that loses 20% of its value the day you leave the lot and 60% within 5 years. A $45,000 car is worth $18,000 in year 5. You just paid $45,000 for an $18,000 asset while paying interest on the difference the entire time. This is not an investment. This is wealth destruction with heated seats and a backup camera. The honest comparison, $45,000 new versus $18,000 certified used. The same vehicle, 3 years older, over 5 years, accounting for depreciation and insurance that runs 63% higher on a luxury vehicle. The new car costs $38,000 to $40,000. The used car costs $16,000 to $18,000. That $22,000 difference invested at 7% over 20 years becomes $156,000. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying actual millionaires, not people who looked wealthy. 37% drove used cars. Most wore a watch under $140. The people making $800 monthly car payments in his research were what he called underaccumulators of wealth. High income, performing success, terrible at building it. The BMW looks like wealth. It is the monthly invoice for the appearance of wealth, billed until the day you trade it in for a newer one. That's the expensive end of this list. What comes next is the one most people don't even recognize as a financial decision. Number 3, whole life insurance. This shows up in your 30s specifically. When you have kids, start thinking about mortality and find yourself sitting across from a very friendly insurance agent who is about to make more money off this meeting than you will. Here's the pitch. Whole life insurance is permanent coverage that also builds cash value like an investment. 2 products in one. Sounds responsible. Here's the reality. A $500,000 term life policy for a healthy 30-year-old costs $26 to $50 a month. The equivalent whole life policy costs around $440 a month. Same death benefit, 5 to 15 times more expensive. Where does the extra $390 go? Largely to the agent. First-year commissions on whole life run 55 to 105% of the annual premium. The rest trickles into a cash value account growing at 2 to 3% annually, while the S&P 500 averages 10%. Your whole life policy is essentially a savings account with a 2.8% return that also functions as a very effective incentive for your insurance agent to answer your calls. If you take that $390 monthly difference and put it into index funds at 7% for 30 years, you have $470,000. The whole life policy's cash value in the same period, maybe $150,000 to $200,000 in a good year. And here's the part nobody mentions. If you die while holding a whole life policy, the insurance company typically keeps your cash value and pays only the death benefit. You built that account for decades. They pocket it. Dave Ramsey calls whole life insurance the timeshare of the insurance industry. He is not wrong. Buy term. Invest the rest. One decision, potentially $300,000 recovered. Before we keep going, I want to show you what items 1 through 3 look like stacked inside a real budget, because the numbers in isolation don't capture how thoroughly these decisions can dismantle an otherwise solid financial life. Meet the Riveras, Marco and Elena, both 37, combined income of $140,000, 2 kids. They did everything right. Got the degrees, built careers, bought a house in a good school district. They are not irresponsible. They do not have a boat. Let's watch what happens to their money. Gross income, $140,000. After taxes, FISA, and a modest 4% 401k contribution, take home is about $8,400 a month. Now, subtract what they've signed up for. The $490,000 house, mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance reserve runs $3,200 a month. Marco leases a $52,000 Audi at $1,050 with insurance. Elena financed a $38,000 SUV, $780 with insurance. 2 whole life policies sold to them after the second kid, $820 a month combined. 2 kids in daycare, $2,800 a month. Total fixed costs, $8,650. Their take home, $8,400. They are $250 in the hole before buying a single grocery. Every line item made sense in isolation. The house is not a mansion. The cars are not Ferraris. The insurance was sold as responsible parenting. Stacked together, these 3 items from this list have trapped a $140,000 household in a budget with no margin, no savings beyond a minimum 401k, and a retirement account holding $62,000 at age 37. Elena closed a browser tab last week, a Zillow listing she wasn't supposed to be looking at, because she already knows they can't move. They're not trapped by their income, they're trapped by their fixed costs. Number 4, private school tuition. This is the one where the emotional stakes are highest and the financial math is most ignored, because talking about where you send your kids feels like talking about how much you love them. So let me show you what you're actually paying for. Average private K-12 tuition nationally, $15,000 a year. Independent day schools average $33,000. Across 13 years, one child at the national average costs $195,000. At the independent school rate, $429,000 per child before college. A University of Virginia study tracked 1,300 children from birth to age 15. Once they controlled for family income and parental education, every measurable academic advantage of private school disappeared. The National Center for Education Statistics found no significant test score difference after adjusting for demographics. Raj Chetty's mobility research, the largest study of income and outcomes ever conducted in America, found that neighborhood and zip code predict adult outcomes far more powerfully than school type. What your kids need is a stable, engaged home environment and proximity to opportunity. Neither of those things costs $33,000 a year. Here's what $15,000 a year does if you invest it instead. At 7% over 18 years, that's $509,000, enough to fund college. Enough to retire years earlier, which means you're present and financially stable during the years your kids are actually growing up. That's the most expensive thing you can give your child, not a building with a Latin motto on it. Time with a parent who isn't financially underwater. We're halfway through the list. The first 4 items were the big structural decisions, like the ones that lock in and compound. What's coming next are the purchases that feel like investments or upgrades, but are quietly some of the most reliable wealth destroyers on this list. Number 5, home renovations that lose money. HGTV has spent 20 years and hundreds of millions of dollars convincing you this is wrong, but most home renovations lose money. The 2024 remodeling magazine Cost Versus Value report tracked renovation spending versus actual resale value nationally. An upscale major kitchen remodel averaging $149,000 returns 39 cents on the dollar at resale. A luxury bathroom renovation at $73,000 returns 48 cents. You spend $149,000 and get $58,000 back. The other $91,000 disappears into quartz countertops and designer tile that the next buyer will rip out because their decorator told them the style is already over. Then there's the pool. Average in-ground installation, $50,000 to $86,000. Annual maintenance, $3,000 to $6,000. Average resale value added to a $400,000 home, about $6,000. You built a $70,000 amenity that adds $6,000 in value and costs $4,500 a year to maintain. In cold climates, pools actively subtract value. Buyers see a liability, not a feature. The pool is physically in your backyard. Financially, sitting in the middle of your retirement account with a net worth of negative $64,000. What actually works, garage door replacement returns 194%. Steel entry door returns 188%. The projects with the best ROI are almost always maintenance and curb appeal, not lifestyle upgrades. Fix things that are broken, improve things the street can see. Do not spend $149,000 on a kitchen because you watched 6 seasons of renovation television and started to believe that was a normal thing people do. Number 6, boats and RVs. The two happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy it and the day they sell it. This became a cliche because it's true with enough statistical regularity to qualify as a law of nature. Average new boat, $42,000. Total annual ownership cost, slip fees, insurance, fuel, maintenance, winterization, runs $10,000 to $20,000 a year. Average days used, 20. You are paying $500 to $1,000 per day to go boating. The ownership experience follows a predictable emotional arc. Excitement, mild panic at the first maintenance bill, simmering regret at the second, and eventually a Facebook Marketplace listing titled Barely Used Motivated Seller, which is boat owner for I am begging you to take this from me. RVs depreciate even faster. 20 to 30% in year 1, 35 to 38% by year 5. One buyer purchased a $55,000 RV, barely used it, and was offered $20,000 by the dealer 5 months later. That's a $35,000 loss on a vehicle that mostly just sat there accumulating regret. The math alternative, $50,000 invested at 10% nominal grows to $336,000 in 20 years. I add avoided ownership costs also invested, and the 20-year opportunity cost of that boat exceeds $900,000. Or rent a comparable boat 10 days a year for $3,000 to $5,000. Same experience. No engine replacement, no storage bill, no negotiation with a marina slip coordinator. Renting experiences versus owning depreciating assets wins every single time. Every time. The next two items are the quiet ones. They don't feel like financial decisions at all, which is exactly why they're dangerous. Number 7, actively managed funds and extended warranties. These two share the same psychology. They're comfort purchases dressed as financial decisions, and they're bleeding real money out of your future quietly enough that most people never notice. The Spiva scorecard found that over 20 years, 91% of large cap, actively managed funds underperformed the S&P 500. On a risk-adjusted basis, 97%. Nearly half didn't survive the full measurement period. They were quietly closed to hide their failure. Average active fund expense ratio, 0.59% versus 0.03 to 0.11% for index funds. On a $500,000 portfolio, a 1% expense difference costs you $363,000 over 20 years and nearly $1 million over 30. You are paying significantly more for a product with a 91% chance of delivering worse returns than the boring alternative that charges almost nothing. Log into your retirement accounts, check your expense ratios, switch to index funds if you haven't. 1 hour of admin, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars recovered. Extended warranties, retailers keep 50% or more of warranty revenue as pure profit. Consumer Reports found 65% of buyers spent more on their warranty than they ever received in repairs. Average auto extended warranty cost, $1,200 to $2,500. Median repair benefit received, $837. That's a net loss before you've done anything. For electronics warranties, 42% were never used at all. Many major credit cards already extend manufacturer warranties by 1 year at no cost, meaning a large share of extended warranty purchases are redundant with a benefit you already have and forgot about. The extended warranty industry is worth $147 billion annually. That is $147 billion transferred from people who wanted to feel less anxious to corporations who were delighted to charge them for the feeling. Number 8, brand name everything. Generic ibuprofen, $4 for 100 tablets. Advil, $15 for the same 100 tablets. The FDA requires generics to be bioequivalent. Same active ingredient, same dosage, same absorption, identical therapeutic effect. The 73% price premium on Advil is buying advertising. Generics saved the American healthcare system $2.2 trillion between 2009 and 2019. You are funding the name brand version of that number, one bottle of Advil at a time. Consumer Reports blind taste tests found store brands matched or outperformed national brands more than 50% of the time. Professional chefs buy store brand pantry staples at higher rates than average consumers because they judge what's on the plate, not what's on the packaging. On store brands cost 25 to 40% less across virtually every grocery, pharmaceutical, and household category. A family spending $650 a month on groceries could save $2,000 to $2,300 a year by shifting primarily to store brands. Add OTC medications, cleaning products, and household basics, and you're at $2,500 to $3,000 annually. That $2,500 invested at 7% for 30 years is $253,000. $250,000 surrendered gradually and invisibly, one recognizable logo at a time. That's the check engine light going on a credit card because the discretionary budget doesn't exist. That's the retirement calculator you close before it finishes loading because you're not quite ready to see the number. A Carnegie Mellon's research identified the mechanism precisely. People pay brand premiums for certainty to reduce the anxiety of not knowing if a product will work. That certainty is real. It is also worth exactly $0 in retirement. Your future self would genuinely like you to try the store brand pasta. Number 9, subscription creep. The average American spends $90 to $273 a month on subscriptions. The range matters because the higher number catches what the lower number misses. Annual app charges billed once a year that disappeared into the noise, streaming services added for one show and never canceled because canceling requires navigating 3 confirmation screens and a guilt trip pop-up designed by someone with a psychology degree and no conscience. But the most alarming finding, people underestimate their subscription spending by 146%. They think they're spending $111 a month. They're spending $273. That gap isn't forgetfulness. It's engineering. The standard 2026 streaming stack, Netflix at $17.99, Hulu at $18.99, Disney Plus at $18.99, Max at $18.49, Spotify at $11.99, Amazon Prime at $14.99. That's $101 a month, $1,217 a year for content, most of which you'll never watch. Add a gym membership at $58 to $69 a month. Americans waste $1.3 billion annually on unused gym memberships alone, not on gyms. On memberships to gyms they joined in January, visited 4 times, and then kept paying because canceling requires going in person and talking to someone named Chad who has been trained to offer you a pause instead. Cutting $200 a month in genuinely unused subscriptions and investing it at 7% produces $104,000 over 20 years and $244,000 over 30. From canceling services you aren't consciously choosing to use. Set a reminder right now. Go through your bank statement. Every recurring charge, did you choose it this month or did it just survive from a month when you did? Let me bring this back to Marcus and Jess in apartment 4A, because the thing I want you to understand is that they are not foolish people. They made 9 completely normal decisions. 9 purchases their social circle normalized, their bank approved, and their culture quietly rewarded with a signal of status and success. The BMW looks like they made it. The renovated kitchen looks like they've built something. The whole life policy looks like responsible parenting. Every individual decision in isolation was defensible, but stacked together across their 30s, those 9 defensible decisions compounded against them. By 55, they'll look at their retirement account and realize the decade where compound interest was doing its heaviest lifting, the decade when every dollar invested at 35 was worth 7 at 65, was the decade they spent building the appearance of wealth instead of the reality of it. The countertops are nice. The payment is long gone. Daniel and Sophia didn't sacrifice their happiness. They drove a paid-off Subaru and kept the scratched Formica countertop and sent their kids to the public school with the good math teacher. They didn't feel deprived, they felt free. Because what financial freedom actually feels like before you have the number is not checking your bank account before you book the flight. It's opening the mail standing up without turning it face down. It's looking at a retirement calculator that shows you 51 and thinking, I can do this. The median net worth for Americans aged 35 to 44 is $135,600. That is the result of a generation making individually rational decisions that added up to almost no wealth. You don't have to be that number, but you have to understand what's actually happening when you make these purchases. Because in your 30s, you're not just buying a car or a kitchen or a streaming service, you're buying a retirement date. And every item on this list is charging you for a later one.